Princess Diana is a descendant of Jacob Frank, the infamous 18th century rabbi who claimed to be the reincarnation of the false Jewish Messiah, Sabbatai Zevi. Jacob Frank had a son named Rochus Frank, who reversed his name and became known in Europe as Frank Roche. Diana's mother's name, Frances Roche, is the female equivalent of the name Frank Roche.
Gonna be a mighty king, so enemies beware.
Well, I've never seen a king of beasts with quite so little hair.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
For Charles, the royal marriage to Princess Diana on July 29, 1981, had nothing whatsoever to do with love. It was an arranged marriage for the concealed purpose of joining the Windsor bloodline with the Goldsmith-Rothschild bloodline. When an interviewer asked the royal couple if they were in love, Diana shyly answered, "Of course." And Charles rudely answered, "Whatever in love means."
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
In November of 1981, the palace announced that the princess was pregnant. Diana's struggle with her health proved doubly difficult.
Sick the whole time, bulimia and morning sickness. People tried to put me on pills to stop me being sick. I refused to take the responsibility that if the child appeared handicapped, I wasn't going to take responsibility.
Her eating disorder was a well-known fact in the royal household.
The bulimia was evident, I think, to anybody who'd known her before and then subsequently saw her, and she became thinner and thinner.
New Year's 1982. Just 5 months into their marriage, pregnant Diana was feeling wretched. Their relationship continued to unravel. She felt Charles was incapable of understanding her turmoil. She threatened to take her own life.
Charles said I was crying wolf, and I said I just felt so desperate, and I was crying my eyes out. And he said, "I'm not going to listen, you're always doing this to me." He said, "I'm going riding now." So I threw myself down the stairs, bearing in mind I was carrying a child. Queen comes out, absolutely horrified, shaking, she's so frightened. I knew I wasn't going to lose the baby, quite bruised around the stomach. And Charles went out riding, and when he came back, you know, it was just dismissal, total dismissal.
It was one of several half-hearted suicide attempts she would make over the next decade. She revealed on the tapes that she had tried to cut her wrists and had thrown herself into a glass cabinet at Kensington Palace.
I was very ill. We were trying to hide that from everybody. I had to come down for treatment because I was so depressed, and I was trying to cut my wrist with razor blades.
And she recalled another incident.
After 5 years of being married, my sister Jane came up to see me, and I had a V-neck on and shorts. She said, "Dutch, what's that marking on your chest?" And I said, "Oh, it's nothing." She said, "What is it?" And the night before, I wanted to talk to Charles about something. He wouldn't listen to me. He said I was crying wolf. So I picked up his penknife off his dressing table and scratched myself heavily down my chest and my both thighs. There was a lot of blood, and it hadn't made any reaction whatsoever.
Suicide attempts are desperate calls for help. It didn't much matter, Diana said. No one was listening. The media interest in the impending birth was intense. So much so that Diana couldn't handle the pressure and wanted labor to be induced. But she recalled, it was difficult to schedule a birth date around the father-to-be's polo matches.
When we had William, we had to find a date in the diary that suited him and his polo. Because William had to be induced because I couldn't handle the pressure any longer. It was becoming unbearable. It was as if everybody was monitoring every day for me. Anyway, the boy arrived, great excitement, thrills, everyone was absolutely on high as a kite. We found a day that Charles could get off his polo pony for me to give birth. So that was very nice, I felt very grateful about that.
As Britain celebrated its new heir,
He's in marvellous form.
Diana retreated into depression.
Came home, and then postnatal depressions hit me hard. And it wasn't so much the baby that had produced it, it was the baby that triggered off all else that was going on in my mind. Boy, was I troubled.
The birth of Prince William Arthur Philip Louis Windsor on June 21, 1982, was not a natural birth. It was an induced birth on the summer solstice, when Druids, witches, and Satanists gather and celebrate at pagan sites throughout Scotland, England, and Wales. The intense celebrations carried on far into the night, with sexual orgies, sacrifices, black masses, and satanic worship on the longest day of the year. The ancient Druids had already prophesied that sometime in the future, on June 21st, their Sun King would be born of a princess. William's induced birth was not only accompanied by a solar eclipse, but by an even rarer lunar eclipse and by strange alignments of the stars and planets. Diana was the name of the ancient moon goddess who gave birth to the sun. Coinciding with William's birth was the release of the 1982 Hollywood film Omen 3, The Final Conflict, with its countless connections to England and the Antichrist.
Your pain on the cross was but a splinter compared to the agony of my father. Cast out from heaven, the fallen angel, banished, reviled. I will drive deeper the thorns into your rancid carcass, you profaner of vices. Cursed Nazarene. Satan, I will avenge thy torment by destroying the Christ forever.
That same year, the controversial New York Times bestseller, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, hit the bookstands and shocked the world. The book was published by Dell Publishing, located at 666 Fifth Avenue, New York. The authors released documented evidence that Jesus did not die on the cross, and that he lived to marry and father a child. The authors also claimed that Israel's royal bloodline of King David was passed down through Jesus' daughter, who married into French Merovingian royalty. Kitty Kelly's book, The Royals, reveals that the late Princess Diana was a descendant of the Merovingian kings. The book suggests that Diana is a carrier of the holy bloodline of Christ. To the occult mind, Diana represents the Holy Grail. She is the receptor of Christ's blood, which is said to have survived the ages. The Knights Templar and secret brotherhoods are reportedly the unseen hands that have protected the holy bloodline through the rise and fall of empires until it reaches its final recipient, who will rule in the name of Christ. Sir Lawrence Gardner is the best-selling author of Bloodline of the Holy Grail. Gardner claims the resurrection of Jesus was a hoax perpetrated by the Church. The Church falsified the gospel record so they could justify their existence as holy mediators between the people and the resurrected Christ. Dan Brown's explosive bestseller, The Da Vinci Code, sold over 80 million copies and was translated into 44 languages. The book reaffirmed that Jesus fathered a child with Mary Magdalene and that his bloodline was passed down to European royalty. But the book didn't say which European royalty. They let the audience take a wild guess. What messages did the Da Vinci Code and movie sell to audiences around the world? Message number 1. The Holy Grail is not a physical cup. The Holy Grail is a woman, namely Mary Magdalene. The Holy Grail cup symbolizes her womb and the surviving bloodline of Christ. Message number 2. Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute. That story was invented by the Church to hide the intimate relationship between Christ and Mary Magdalene. Message number 3. The Grail relics hidden by the Knights Templar included documents and the actual bones of Mary Magdalene as proof. Message number 4. At the time of the crucifixion, Mary Magdalene was pregnant. After the crucifixion, she fled to Gaul, which is now France, where she gave birth to a daughter named Sarah. Message number 5. Sarah eventually married into Merovingian royalty. The Merovingians are carriers of the holy bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Message number 6. To this day, the Knights Templars are devoted to returning a descendant of Christ's lineage to the throne of Jerusalem. They have passed on the secret through an underground network of secret societies that include the Priory of Zion. Leonardo da Vinci was a member of the Priory of Zion. Message number 7. Da Vinci knew the Grail secret, and he coded it into his masterpiece painting, The Last Supper. The figure seated next to Jesus is not a man, but a woman. She is Jesus' wife, Mary Magdalene. Another world-famous artist also hid the Grail secret in his work. Frederick Bartholdi was a 33rd-degree Freemason. He was commissioned by the Freemasons of France to create a monolithic statue as a gift to the Freemasons of America. Like Da Vinci, Bartholdi's masterpiece hid the secret in plain sight. He created a statue of Mary Magdalene in an advanced state of pregnancy. The statue has nothing whatsoever to do with liberty. Why are the Illuminati-owned publishers and movie studios releasing propaganda books and movies about the holy bloodline of Christ? The motive can be found in these Associated Press photos of Prince William holding a lamb like Jesus. The media has sold the idea that Princess Diana was a carrier of the holy bloodline of Christ, which implies that William, her firstborn son and heir to the throne, has divine blood. The media monopolies have created the public expectation that a final battle between good and evil is near, and what the world needs now is a savior. Diana's tragic death won worldwide love and sympathy for her look-alike son William, whose popularity has soared since her passing. He is now the most beloved figure in the UK. William is immune to bad publicity. The Rothschild-controlled Associated Press have protected him from all criticism, scandal, and tabloid attacks on his character. He's being packaged as the responsible, handsome, and saintly heir to the throne. To prepare for his role as king, William has trained in all branches of the British military. His role as an RAF search and rescue pilot sets the stage for newsworthy acts of heroism and saintliness.
Well, that's definitely out.
Free to do it all my way.
If this is where the monarchy is headed, count me out. Out of service, out of Africa, I wouldn't hang about. This child is getting wildly out of wing.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
Thus far, rather an inspiring thing.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
What would life be like living under one world government ruled by a world king? Who are the candidates that the entire world would be willing to unite under and accept as their world king and savior? Bible prophecy reveals that the coming world king is the Prince of Darkness or Antichrist. He will ascend to power on a platform of peace and will claim to be humanity's savior, but he will be a counterfeit savior. He will bring about peace by disarming the world of its weapons of war. In so doing, he will hold the power over one world government and one world army. Biblical prophecy scholar